Hello guys and girls, welcome back to another video. And today, little discussion, like always. I'm just gonna be talking about some sets that I think are kind of underrated, underappreciated in the current space. There's the current hype cycle sets. You've got Prismatic, you got Evolving Skies, you got 151, you even got like some older stuff like Hidden Fates. But I'm gonna talk about kind of the stuff that maybe doesn't get talked about as much and are still really cool sets and I think have a lot of potential either for growth or they're just like pretty cool to collect. So I just kind of want to like break down why I think these sets are kind of cool, what's in them, why you might want to be interested in them in the future, where they might be going in the next year or two. I just kind of want to break that down in a little video today. So I'm going to be breaking down 5 of them for you. So yeah, first one up that I wanted to talk about today is Chilling Reign here. Super cool set. Honestly, they have some really cool artworks and alt arts. Unfortunately, it was kind of sandwiched in between Battle Styles and Evolving Skies, so it tends to be more forgotten. Also, it had the problem of being reprinted right as the popularity of Pokemon was like dying off in the last boom. So it kind of had the stigma of, oh, it's overprinted, nobody wants that. Meanwhile, now it's like a $400 box, I think. Like, it has still gone up a ton because people like the set, and I think there's some really cool artworks like the Blaziken in there that people are chasing, but the set was kind of overlooked. And I think honestly, it's a really super cool set. I think the ETBs are some of the coolest looking ones. The booster box is kind of cool. I'm not the biggest fan of it, like artwork wise, of the booster box. But honestly, if you're looking for like an underrated set that like has a lot of potential to be, growing in the next couple of years, it's out of print. They're not going to be reprinting any more Chilling Reign. It's not coming back. The artworks are still really cool. It's part of that alt art sector. Honestly, I think it's really cool. So yeah. The next set I wanted to talk about is actually Silver Tempest, as you can see here. Honestly, one of the coolest chase cards I think Pokemon has ever printed. The actual like storm look to it for the Lugia V alt art, literally the coolest card I think I've ever seen. It in my opinion, dwarfs any of the prismatic cards. Then again, I'm not the hugest Evolution fan, but like it's up there with like the Rayquaza in my opinion from Evolving Skies. It is just an absolutely sick card. I think it's better than the Gengar VMAX. Absolutely beautiful card. The only problem was Silver Tempest wasn't the most popular set, especially when it came out. It was in that lull period of where Pokemon was just like, oh, we're off the highs. We're now just kind of chilling, staying stagnant again. So a lot of people didn't really get super invested into Silver Tempest, which has actually kept it pretty affordable. If you're looking to get a booster box of this, it's like, what, $300, $350? Not too bad, honestly, if you are looking to get something that you're just like, oh, I want to rip something that's old. It's not going to get reprinted. You can get the packs still, like, relatively cheap because they're in a bunch of different stuff that are kind of from that Sword and Shield era. Some super cool cards. I like the Radiant cards that are in there. Some of them are pretty cool. Some of the trainers are pretty cool. But yeah, overall, pretty good set. Very underrated. You don't see anyone talking about Silver Tempest, at least not anymore. Next set I want to talk about, honestly, has gotten a lot of attention very recently. So, don't sue me for saying this is underrated, but Twilight Masquerade here, absolutely awesome set. All things considered, the Greninja, like I just talked up the Lugia. The Greninja is my absolute favorite card. If I could afford a PSA 10 version, like to just have in my collection, display on my bookshelf, I would. Fortunately, I'm not that well off to be able to afford something like that, but it is one of the coolest like chase cards I think out of all of SV. Like more than the Charizard, more than the Venusaur, Blastoise, Umbreons, Evolutions. I think it's the chase card. Honestly, if I'm being honest, it's cooler than the Magikarp. I think it is the Gengar VMAX of Scarlet and Violet. I think it will overtake Paldea Evolved eventually because the Magikarp's cool, but Greninja has a way bigger fan base than Magikarp will ever. I know people are like, oh, Shinji Kanda. That's whatever. The artwork is fantastic on the Magikarp and it'll still be a top tier chase, but I think the Greninja is going to overtake it just because I think it's way cooler. And I think most people would agree that it's a lot cooler card to look at. But otherwise, Twilight Masquerade has some pretty cool cards. I know my girlfriend loves the Perrin and Hisuian Growlithe like combo card where they're like taking a picture. Has some really unique artworks in that where there's like cool combo cards and things like that. I think there's the Timber card, the illustration rare, also a really sick card. Super underrated. It's not very expensive. There's some really unique cards. Obviously, Twilight Masquerade has been getting caught on more and more. I think the booster box is almost $300 now, which is absolutely insane for a set that's like a year and a half old. It's unlikely to get, it's right there where it's probably going to get reprinted one more time, but it's on its last legs out of it. So if you're looking for more something that's a little bit riskier but still has a ton of upside for maybe an investing play, Twilight Masquerade is definitely where I would look. I think it has the same upside as, like I said, Fusion Strike with the Gengar. But yeah. Now, if I mentioned MSRP Pokemon, most people right now in the current day and age, if you're buying MSRP, you're buying Shrouded Fable. It's a specialty set. It came out this year. Is the only one that you can find readily at like $60 for an ETB, which I know isn't MSRP, but it's at least reasonable. It's a specialty set. It came out this year. It's the only one that isn't exorbitant prices wise. Like it's very reasonable to open. Shrouded Fable has some really cool cards. The Persian, it had its hype earlier in the year. I think it's cool, but I don't think it's that super cool. I think the Houndoom is way cooler. I definitely think Shrouded Fable has some definite upside potential on it because it is so cheap when you're already at the bottom. I don't think it's going to get too much lower. It might drop back down to 50, 40, but like the upside potential of it if they don't reprint it. Because think about it, Shrouded Fable has been readily available all year. Are they really going to reprint Shrouded Fable a bunch of times? Because there wasn't a whole lot of demand for it. They're gonna reprint the Prismatics. They're gonna reprint the Destinarvals, the things that have a ton of demand from consumers that are gonna be bought out. Shrouded Fable isn't immediately bought out every single time. Pokemon has no reason to keep reprinting it. I honestly think it will have some pretty good upside to it. I think some of the artwork's pretty cool. I definitely don't think it's a top tier set or anything like that, but it's definitely underrated. I think people underappreciate how cool some of the artworks are. Like I like the illustration rares, and like I said, the Houndoom, I think the Pheasantipity is pretty cool. So yeah, Shrouded Fable, definitely one to look out for. Also, if you made it this far in the video, if you could like and subscribe to the video. I think like 98% of people aren't subscribed, so if you're watching this video, you could hit the subscribe button, help us out a ton. But yeah, let's get on to the last one real quick. And the last set, I know everyone's gonna be like, this one's not underrated, but Lost Origin here is honestly one of the most underrated sets. I think the Giratina is so much cooler than the Gengar. I think the Gengar's sick, honestly, the Gengar VMAX. But I think the Giratina, like if people praise Shinji Kanda, that is his like magnum opus like card in my opinion. It is so cool. I know some people say it's cluttered or whatever. I think it's personally really cool. I think it works for like the darkness aesthetic. I mean, if you think about it, the Giratina is kind of like the one, you know, down below. So I think the clutteredness and kind of the dark edginess of it works. Now, obviously this booster box has been known for a while. People have obviously bought a bunch of these. They're now, well, like $600 a box. So it's not definitely like super underrated in price wise, but I think set wise, people don't lump it in there with like Evolving Skies and Fusion Strike as much as they probably should, because I think genuinely it is one of the coolest sets. Like chase card wise, I've gotten to look at the Giratina. I think it's super cool. I know people like other artworks and stuff like that in sets. I like some of the chase cards, but Giratina is one of my favorite cards, period. I think Giratina is super cool. But yeah, I think that's an underrated set. It's kind of my last one for here. But yeah, like I said, should like and subscribe. I think Lost Origin definitely is maybe not a play, but definitely a set if you're looking to rip something and hopefully pull a super expensive card. Giratina is definitely one of them that I would look for. But yeah, thanks for watching.